As we begin to look at child sexual exploitation, or CSE, it's important to distinguish between sexual abuse and sexual exploitation. Although the end result of CSE is largely the sexual abuse of the child in question, there are a number of different factors which differentiate between abuse and exploitation. The UK government definition, which is laid out in a 2009 document called Safeguarding Children and Young People from Sexual Exploitation, is clear that in order to be classed as CSE, the young person must receive something, whether this be gifts, remuneration, drugs, alcohol, or actual, just straightforward affection, as a result of them performing or having sexual activities performed on or to them. In today's current technological climate, it's also important to note that the child may not be immediately aware of this, for example through posing for sexual images on the internet or mobile devices without immediate recompense. In all cases of CSE, however, it's important to note that the exploiter or the abuser has power over the child through age, intelligence, physical strength or financial resources. It's not uncommon to find violence, coercion and intimidation present, and the children involved in these exploitative relationships will often be vulnerable both emotionally and socially. Although the sexual exploitation of children has always been a problem within society, changes in how it's viewed and a growing acceptance of CSE as an increasing concern has placed it more and more in the public conscience. In 2010, a UK-wide survey estimated the number of children who had experienced CSE at approximately 3,000, while CEOP, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre, received 2,000 direct reports of victims, despite limited cooperation from local authorities and police forces. It's fair to say that although CSE affects children from all backgrounds, there are certain young people who are more open to this type of abuse and exploitation, and research conducted by both Barnardo's and the University of Bedfordshire show that those children in care, 22% of whom have reported CSE, or who regularly go missing, over 50% of children reporting, are particularly vulnerable. These same studies also show that there's a strong likelihood that children and young people involved in offending behaviours or excluded from school are also particularly vulnerable to exploitation. Barnardo's, in their Spot the Signs leaflets, highlight these factors as possible indicators of CSE, along with a number of other warning signs to be aware of. Returning with unexplained gifts or new possessions, having older boyfriends or girlfriends, suffering from sexually transmitted diseases, mood swings or poor emotional health, substance misuse, and inappropriate sexualised behaviour. There is a distinct link between CSE and children going missing, but unfortunately going missing is not a particularly easy thing to define, and it's often used interchangeably with the term running away when referring to children and young people. Therefore, people who work in this field have attempted to make a distinction between the two terms. It's argued that the majority of children and young people who run away aren't formally reported. They tend to go to friends' houses, to other family members, and then come home within a very short amount of time. And only 3 in 10 children who run away come to the attention of the police. Missing children, however, range from children abducted by family members or strangers, teenagers who leave home to escape something, children who are misplaced for periods of time. Going missing has been described as the most immediate indicator of vulnerability with regards to CSE, and Barnardo's, in the previously mentioned research, describes going missing as one of the top 4 risk factors for CSE. It also estimates that around 50%, half of sexually exploited children and young people it worked with, went missing on a regular basis. In 2012, the Children's Commissioner's inquiry into child sexual exploitation in gangs and groups highlights going missing as a particular area of concern. It was identified as part of the inquiry children who were being sexually exploited were also repeatedly and regularly going missing, with 70% going missing from home. It's important to look at why these young people may be going missing and therefore placing themselves at risk of CSE. For example, it seems that children not living with their family are more likely than average to go missing for periods of time. Children living with a single parent are nearly twice as likely to go missing, and this is even higher among children living with a parent and a step-parent. Other reasons identified include neglect, physical or sexual abuse, or below-average parenting. Some parents and carers may have chaotic lives involving substance abuse, mental health problems, or experiencing domestic violence. As a result of going missing, a child may spend time on the streets where exploitative adults have unsupervised access to vulnerable young people. These children often become involved with other vulnerable young people and exploitative adults through a need for somewhere to go. CSE can often be seen in this context in the form of abuse by an adult offering shelter in return for sex, and perpetrators may target locations that missing children are known to frequent. 1 in 9 children in these circumstances said they had done other things beyond stealing and begging in order to survive. As well as being a situation that puts young people at risk, going missing can be a symptom of sexual exploitation, with children being groomed by the perpetrator to stay away from home, perhaps at the offender's house. Gifts received as part of the grooming, such as clothes, accommodation, money, and mobile phones, are also seen to entice children away from their home. Offenders may encourage children to go missing for longer periods of time, making it seem more desirable to be with them and away from their parents or carers. In 2012, Childline completed a major piece of research into the sexual exploitation of young people through grooming. Grooming is aimed at building trust or dependency with a child or young person in order to engage them in sexual behaviour or exploitation. Grooming can, however, also include threats or bribes convincing the child not to ask for help. Children talk about making friendships on the internet, being asked to exchange photos or messages which are then used as a threat. In face-to-face situations, these friendships come with offers of love, affection, alcohol or drugs. The young people involved talk about the devastating impact on their lives through abusive images, messages, or experiences of direct sexual abuse. Many young people are shy and lack social confidence, so meeting someone new is easier online than in person. It's easy online for the abuser to keep their real age and identity anonymous. In other cases, the abusers will bribe the child using gifts including money, alcohol, drugs, and the use of bribes and gifts means young people initially see abusers as supportive adults or friends, which increases the likelihood of the relationship continuing. After a young person is engaged with a groomer as a friend or boyfriend, the grooming then often escalates to sexual abuse, often when a sense of dependency has been established for the child. When the child has established an emotional attachment with the abuser, they often find it difficult to understand what is happening. Some children refuse to believe that they are being groomed as they feel they're in a genuine, loving relationship. This experience is the same for face-to-face situations or online relationships, and the self-blame when they do realise makes it difficult to talk to anyone about what's happened, leading to psychological damage, self-esteem and perception problems. The University of Bedfordshire completed a major piece of research in 2011 to examine the current state of safeguarding in relation to young people at risk of CSE. They discovered a number of areas in which work needed to be completed to ensure the needs of these young people were met. Many agencies working with young people were unaware of the way in which exploitation takes place. This means that signs are overlooked and the opportunities for early intervention are missed. All practitioners should have training to enable them to address identification, engagement, disruption and prosecution. This training should look specifically at work with the police on evidence gathering and recording to ensure the best possible outcomes for the children. With particular relevance to social care services, often on the front line of such investigations, it should be a statutory requirement for child sexual exploitation to be on the curriculum for trainee social workers, in addition to youth services and educational provision. It is clear that CSE is a growing problem in the UK and internationally, involving the trafficking of children, the grooming, exploitation and abuse of children, and unacceptable societal views, all forming the wider picture of child sexual exploitation. Organisations such as CEOP, Social Care and Children's Services all remain active and responsible in protecting children from this distinct type of abuse, and it is clear from ongoing research, official reporting and proactive prosecution and engagement from the police that child sexual exploitation will remain high in the priorities of both professionals and the public for a great deal of time to come.